You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL. Episode 15. We are live. We are established here on a Tuesday evening. You could have been anywhere else in the world. We're starting on time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're here close to Atlanta, Georgia. Awesome show on deck tonight. We usually don't talk about basketball. We don't talk about anything but the NFL on this show, but the Women's March Madness National Championship game, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, we've seen it all, and I'm not here to make it a racial debate. I genuinely want to just have some input on the situation, and congratulations to LSU. What a game it was. Awesome record-setting time for those ladies. We know it's hard for them to get that recognition. Full first-round mock draft tonight on the show. Talking a little bit of Atlanta Falcons defense for next season, and then please stream subscribe please on YouTube. We are at 319 subs. The road to 1,000 subscribers continues, but we take it in 100 step increments, so we're just looking to get to 400 now. Thank you to everyone. Of course, you see the QR code here on the screen. Make sure to scan that if you can. Every bit of podcast content, every bit of social media content we've got. If you can't, at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into episode 15. We are going to take it right off the top with the Women's National Championship for March Madness. And again, this was a great game. Caitlin Clark balled out. Angel Reese balled out. Of course, they had some exchange after the game. Angel Reese said her piece at the podium after the game, came right from the heart. If you guys haven't seen the I Am Athlete podcast in general, make sure to check that out. But the reason I say that is they already got Angel Reese for an exclusive first sit down after the NFL draft. Hope I can see the chat comments tonight. Y'all let me know. You should be able to jump in there. I don't know what was going on last time. But yes, absolutely one heck of a game. I Am Athlete got Angel Reese, the player who was under some controversy. You see her in the lower third. She was going back and forth with Caitlin Clark. They got her on the sit down. They really dug in with her. Awesome interview. I was soaking that up right before we got on the show. But let's talk about the incident that everyone is going on about. And of course, it is Angel Reese hitting the John Cena on Caitlin Clark, pointing at the ring finger, which we see people do all the time when they're about to win a ring. Thank God the chat is coming through tonight, so I'm very happy about that. We always see people pointing at the ring. We always see people taunting. And I think the biggest one-liner from this subject is, I feel like if we're talking about a men's national championship game and we're talking about the NFL, this is fine. Like, we're absolutely fine. Maybe even if we're talking about the WNBA, this is fine. But of course, you've got the labels that have been put on Angel Reese. You've got these labels that have been put on the state of Louisiana, on the LSU Lady Tigers. And it's just a lot going around. Really, really a lot going around. And as Michael Darby says, yes, da Bayou Barbie. If you're not even in to sports, you already know about this situation. But the biggest thing that people are now going back and forth about, and again, I'm not going to talk about the whole black or white incident. There's no reason to get into that. They're both being competitive. Caitlin Clark already came out and said, I don't think Angel should be catching any flack. I don't think she should be catching any flack at all because this is good for the game. It's competitive. People knew there was going to be trash talk. She knows she's a trash talker. Caitlin Clark, absolute stand-up athlete. The way that she handled the situation as well. She was at the post game claiming that she didn't see what was happening from Angel Reese. Apparently she was very focused. I believe she saw her. Angel Reese in the I Am Athlete podcast said, I know she saw me as well. I would have seen a person doing that. But she was great at the podium. She said that she was just looking to get to the handshake line. She said that coach, I think Kim Mulkey, great story on her end, by the way. And Angel Reese, said nothing but good things to her in the handshake line. So there was sportsmanship after the slight celebration. And I don't really understand why everyone's blowing it out of context. We've seen Caitlin Clark, hype her teammates up, talking trash to the bench. I think she was playing Louisville and she literally told a player, you're down 15 points. Shut up. That might be a little rough for some of you people out there, but realistically, that is very light in the game of trash talking. If you think that's rough, go listen to Jalen Ramsey talk trash. Go listen to Phillip Rivers, the way he talked trash. Just go look up NFL mic'd up. Go look up multiple talking trash moments in sports. And I promise what happened between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and what each of these players have done in terms of their character this season, not in a bad way, but it doesn't hold a candle to what some of the mic'd up parts from these other sports are. So, you know, let's talk about the two situations. Again, Caitlin Clark, she is very competitive. She is very acclaimed by her teammates. She is in front of the benches, hyping people up. She is, just getting hype in general, celebrating after every shot, just really got that energy flowing through her. So was one situation worse than the other? Absolutely not. Neither of these situations were worse than the other. I know some people are saying two wrongs don't make a right, but it's not that deep. It's not to that extent with this situation. So Caitlin Clark, she had the slight "you can't see me" hand gesture, and then, in the game before, and then she was walking past the bench, or I think walking to the bench, excuse me, whichever way she was going. And I mean that was fine. That was absolutely fine. Again, she fires up her teammates. That's what she does. That's how competitive she is. And the one thing that really made Angel Reese mad, and this is what Angel Reese had referred to as well, is that Angel Reese was like, she waved off my teammate. She literally saw her standing at the arc, or not her teammate. I think it was from the South Carolina game in the Final Four, talking about how she waved off the teammate. I think it was Angel Morris, if I'm not mistaken. Angel Reese, of course, is the player that we're talking about here. But yes, talking about how Caitlin Clark waved off Angel Morris. Angel Reese didn't like that. She was not a fan of that at all. So when Angel Reese comes now, it's the end of the game. Great victory, 102-85. LSU really did their thing. They were doubted by a lot of people. They were not in many people's brackets for the ladies' side of the tournament. And you could see that Angel Reese, yes, was following her around the court some. That's not what a lot of people are a fan of. But people are taking it to the point of taunting. Yeah, maybe it was taunting. If she would have got teed up at the end of a game where they're up by, I think, 17 points, okay, so be it. Caitlin Clark is one of the best players, if not the best player in women's college basketball right now. Angel Reese is very close to her also. She was happy about the moment. She was celebrating. It was the first time LSU had ever won a national championship in college basketball for women's. And to know what Kim Mulkey did, I think within a 3-season span, turned that team around. Angel Reese talked about how when she transferred from Maryland, she was going to go be a South Carolina Gamecock. One of her friends had hit her up. She came to LSU. Kim Mulkey was saying, I don't know if I can get Angel Reese. Angel Reese showed up. They had this turnaround. Things played out great, and now they won the title. So all of those emotions were wrapped up into that celebration from Angel Reese, and I think it's fine. Caitlin Clark thinks it's fine. This is what we need in sports, is more competition. We see in the NFL how it's illegal to touch the quarterback now. And we see in baseball how, they're talking about robot umpires taking out, the human element. Not enough relevance with hockey. Like, we've seen these certain sports not potentially go to the heights they can because of lack of competitiveness or rules or things like I just mentioned, taking out the element that everyone fell in love with. Trash talking is always going to be the core of a sport. Trash talking is something that is needed in a sport. It's emotional exchanges. Yes, these players probably cuss at each other. Of course, we hear it on the mic'd up. But this wasn't the case here. This was a class act, again, in Caitlin Clark accepting the defeat. She lost by 17 points in the national title game and is one of the biggest players in the country. People are comparing her to the Steph Curry of women's college basketball right now. That is the pedestal that Caitlin Clark is being put on. And because Angel Reese wants to come behind with this taunt, this, that, and the third, Dave Portnoy, absolutely disgusting comment what you said about her being a classless piece of shit. Absolutely horrible. I hope you don't speak to other people like that, truthfully. I hope you have more grace and more understanding, considering everybody has a past and everybody has a background, that we shouldn't throw out words like that. Keith Oberman apparently was went at by, I don't know, it's Brandon Marshall's lady on I Am Athlete podcast, Ashley. I was just watching her, talk with Angel Reese on the show, and she talked about how she clapped back at Keith Oberman. Just for people to go to that extent, just call them stupid MFers and this, that, and the third, really, really intense for a women's college basketball game. I didn't necessarily like the fact that she was kind of following her around, but I'm not going to freak out about that. She was happy. She leaned into it. She said she's the Bayou Barbie. She said, everyone's doubted me all year. I don't fit into the box. And this is why I respect the hell out of Angel Reese, and really why this situation just had a lot of good light to actually be shed on it. Angel Reese in the postgame comments basically said she was critiqued all year about who she was. She was hood. She was ghetto. And she said, I don't fit into the box that the media wants me to, that the box that y'all want me to fit into. I'm not just going to stand in there. That and this was for all the girls who look like me, who are going to speak up when it's time to and be unapologetically them. That was her words in the post-game presser right after the game ended. And she said, even in the interview with I Am Athlete, there's no beef. There's absolutely no beef with Caitlin Clark. She hasn't talked to her, but there's no beef with her. She was celebrating against what people are calling, again, the Steph Curry of women's college basketball. So go figure. I loved it. I thought it was great. And, for, again, now a Louisiana sports team winning a championship, and there's controversy around how they won it or the players that were involved in winning it. I got to lean into this part of it here because it's something that I'm seeing, and sports media is all over states. It's all over certain teams. It's all over certain regions of maybe all Florida teams or Washington teams, whatever the case is. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but as we get into this breakdown, you'll see what I mean. I concur. Tell me what you mean, Bruns. Good to see you in the chat, man. Good to see you looking clean. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel great because of the amazing cookies that you made earlier, and I love you, babe. Okay, so talking about the kind of bias / this odd angle that is pointed at Louisiana sports, dating back to when the Saints won the Super Bowl in 2009. Oh, it only happened because of Katrina. Oh, it only happened because Sean Payton got lucky and called that onside kick, which I have said, if that goes the opposite way and it doesn't doink off the Colts player's helmet and we recover it to open the halftime of the first ever Super Bowl in franchise history from maybe the worst sports franchise in history and definitely in the NFL at the time before Sean Payton came over, it could be completely different for Sean Payton. But it wasn't. He pulled it off. We had the pick six on Peyton Manning, and we won the Super Bowl fair and square. But people will continue to sit there and say that it wasn't deserved. It should be stripped because of Bountygate. It only happened because of Katrina. They got lucky in the Super Bowl. Things happen. Life happens, and the Saints went and won the Super Bowl that year. 2020, when the state of Louisiana finally won its first, I want to say overall sports championship, but definitely a football championship for the first time since the Saints did in 2009. Oh, but it was Joe Burrow who was the number one overall pick, and he had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, and you could have went through that NFL draft and picked apart that team and just taken whoever you wanted for your NFL team. Oh, that was possibly the best college football team ever. Okay, let's use that as a testament to how great the team was and not discount the state of Louisiana, the city of New Orleans, for what it is. And then you have the 2023 LSU Tigers, women's college basketball, national champions of March Madness. And people aren't going to take away the win, but they're going to find something, whether it's a player, whether it's a situation. And I know people are probably going to come back and be like, oh, what about when the Saints complained about the referees making that call? It's kind of out of our control at that moment. But the things that people want to critique are in everybody's control, and they still find a way to make an issue about it. Again, people pointing at Angel Reese, saying she was too ghetto, she was too hood. Do y'all know Angel Reese has 17 NIL deals right now? Do you know that Angel Reese has the most NIL deals out of any college basketball player right now, men or women's? And she's in the top 5 in the entirety of the NCAA in NIL deals as well. 17 NIL deals. She said on the I Am Athlete podcast today that NIL will literally determine how long she spends in college, because with NIL, she could be making more than a top superstar elite WNBA player would be making at the peak of their career. So I just think people are really looking into a lot of unnecessary angles and just really going out of their way to discount a Louisiana team winning a championship. And that's unfair to the state. That's unfair to the city of New Orleans. That's unfair to the fans, the people that hail from there. And it's just, it's pretty funny. It's pretty hilarious to know that every time the Louisiana team's going to get the spotlight, boom, here comes something. I don't know. But tell me what y'all think about the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark situation. Again, I know we usually talk football on here. I'm starting off with a women's college basketball topic, probably the last thing you expected me to come forward with. But I was like, you know what? I got a lot to say. I thought about just making a short TikTok about it because I didn't have any content for today besides going live tonight. But I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to get on the show. I'll give a full take about that because I feel like there was light that needed to be shed on the situation. Shouldn't be a big deal. The sport needs it. Huge light shine on women's basketball because of those two ladies. 100% agree with you, Bruns, not Buns. People are just butthurt if it wasn't their team winning. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it was. Don't forget, y'all can call the show if you want, 678-480-8716. If you call during the mock draft, though, I might not pick up just because we got 31 picks to go through in that mock draft. I didn't know Miami forfeited their pick as well. But also never forget, we are sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs. Make sure to contact at Buy and Sell with AJL. Get on their monthly newsletter. All you got to do is drop your email. They also just implemented some AI into the business as well. If you want to get a property's value, if you want to know how fast it'll sell, if you want to know the competition that's going to be around that property, make sure to contact at Buy and Sell with AJL on all social media platforms. Get on that newsletter. Get the AI implemented for the property stats that'll really help you out to make a move in this market, whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or acquire, an investment property. Buy and Sell with AJL. Please make sure to like the stream wherever you're watching at. Get in the chat. The QR code here will give you every bit of social media content. If you can't find that, or if you can't scan that, at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. Now let's go ahead and get into our mock draft. It always switches me over to that. I have unveiled the entire thing here to my left because I did not want to logistically stress myself out with creating all the graphics. So I'm sure y'all are going to explode in the chat as you see where certain players have been taken. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to break these picks down, not in an extreme way because I could be here for an hour plus. We're going to do more than one mock draft as well. Definitely going to do more than one mock draft because there's trades, there's certain players that could go higher or lower. As I go through the mock draft here, I'll be able to tell you guys, hey, thought this guy could have went higher. Maybe I picked them a little lower. PFF kind of had me messed up with their draft simulator referring all the players that they did. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the NFL with AJL 2023 mock draft 1.0. And off the top, the Carolina Panthers, after they gave up the haul to go to the number one pick, they will be taking CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. Panthers are going to be just a little concerned about Bryce Young's size. Some will say that Bryce Young is more talented than CJ Stroud, which I could possibly agree with. I give CJ Stroud the slight nod because of the health, because of the size. He has a lot of great receivers. He had a lot of great receivers, don't get me wrong, to throw to in Ohio State. But nonetheless, CJ Stroud at number one. Number two, right behind him, you will see Bryce Young going to the Texans. They know Davis Mills is not it. Bryce Young, clearly the quarterback two in this class. Very accurate, very athletic, can make a lot of offense out of nothing. And knowing what he did with Alabama, without the plethora of wide receivers, without the plethora of talent like they've had before, seeing them not get deep into the playoffs and knowing that Bryce Young still played well is a testament to the player there. Number three, the Arizona Cardinals will be taking the best player available on the board for their position, Will Anderson over Jalen Carter. A lot of people are expecting Jalen Carter to go here at number three. Will Anderson's the best edge rusher in the draft, also doubles as a linebacker coming out of Alabama. Absolute monster. If you roll with the tide, you know what Will Anderson's doing. At number four, Frank Reich is going to be comfortable here with the Colts. I want to make sure I am saying that correctly. So he's with the Panthers. Got you. Number four, I was totally butchering that. Number four, the Indianapolis Colts will be taking Will Levis, quarterback out of Kentucky. I'm not a fan of this pick here, but again, this is one of many mocks that's going to happen. This is a possibility. Nothing's really set in stone in the NFL draft for sure until until the first pick happens. I mean, that's the only thing that's really set in stone is the first pick. And then after that, it's okay, what trades are going to happen? Who's going to move up? Who's going to move down? Will Levis at number four to the Indianapolis Colts. My biggest complaint about Will Levis is I don't like how airy his throws are. His footwork isn't necessarily the greatest, and I think he could have overall better follow through and just more zip on the football. Number five, the Seattle Seahawks are going to go in the trenches and take Jalen Carter, defensive lineman out of Georgia. Some that say this is a guy that's the best player in the draft. I think it's absolutely not crazy but interesting that he's not going to visit any teams outside of the top 10. I love the manifestation, knowing he's going to go in the top 10. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, very reputable agent in the NFL, represented Antonio Brown at one time. He believes he's going to go in the top 10. He's had some off-field stuff that's bothered me, but Jalen Carter at 5 to the Seahawks. At number 6, a guy that I feel like I snagged early in this draft, but the Lions are going to want to put a monster next to Aiden Hutchinson. They just brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, so they're going to double down with Nolan Smith, who a guy, edge rusher out of Georgia, does have some concerns about his size, but had the blazing speed at the combine. Nolan Smith at number 6. Now, the spiciest pick probably, or one of the spiciest picks of my first mock draft, is the Raiders taking the chance on Anthony Richardson at number 7. And yes, I did have a take about this, that the Raiders would be that team. And I even had some fans agreeing with me that the Raiders would be that team to take Anthony Richardson at the number 6 position, number 7 position. Very, very raw quarterback, ranked dead last in FBS out of 43 or 45 quarterbacks for accuracy overall. Looked great on the ground, nice rushing yards. I don't even think he had 2,000 passing yards this year. Some plays he looks like he's the best in the league, or could be, and other plays you're like, how is this guy playing quarterback? We've seen the Raiders jump at an Alex Leatherwood. We've seen the Raiders jump at toxic players in the past. We've seen players jump at unrefined players in the past before. Unfortunately, I think this trait for this mock draft continues, and Anthony Richardson goes at number 7. Right after that, a high pick, I feel like, for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that they're going to be okay with Desmond Ridder, they're comfortable with Desmond Ridder being the starter. They've already named him that. You've already got reports coming out. And of course, saying the right things, that Desmond Ridder's excited to be here. He wants to be a Falcon. He's promising them a Super Bowl, and he's excited to be the quarterback. So they're going to give him another weapon. They take Kyle Pitts 2 years ago. They take Drake London last year. Now they take the best wide receiver in the NFL draft out of Ohio State. One of C.J. Stroud's favorite targets, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Very crisp route running, great hands. JSN is by far the wide receiver one in this draft. At number 9, the first offensive lineman to come off the board will be Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern to protect Justin Fields. I am totally on the train. You might see me take offensive linemen at every single point right here in my mock drafts, unless they trade out of it. Justin Fields needs to be protected. I want to say he was still the second most sacked, or the most sacked quarterback last year in the NFL. And still put up numbers the way he did. I know they only won 3 games. Very, very embarrassing. But Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern to the Chicago Bears. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 10, thanks to the New Orleans Saints, will pick Paris Johnson Jr. And I would really like to be the Saints here, picking at 10 for Paris Johnson Jr., or maybe even able to jump in and get a quarterback at this position in the draft. But nonetheless, the Eagles, Jason Kelsey did come back. Lane Johnson did come back. Isaac Samalo did leave, but they did have Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson that are still there as well. There is some age on that offensive line, and while there is depth, it never hurts to continue to protect your quarterback. So they will also take a offensive lineman back-to-back here at the number 10 pick, Paris Johnson Jr. I definitely goofed here at number 11, taking Quentin Johnson for the Tennessee Titans. I'm not saying that the Titans shouldn't take a receiver, but I feel like if I could go back and do it again, I would probably have and it feels early, right? Probably a Zay Flowers, maybe a Jordan Addison. I don't believe Quentin Johnson is the wide receiver 2 at this point. We're three weeks out of the NFL draft. But nonetheless, Quentin Johnson at number 11 out of TCU, the wide receiver. At number 12, the Texans will go defense after taking Bryce Young, number 2 overall, and go Tyree Wilson, the edge out of Texas Tech. Patrick Mahomes' alma mater. Not that that matters. Just wanted to drop that nugget in there for you, though. Great edge rusher in this draft, high up on a lot of boards, has nice moves, has nice speed. Of course, there is never a perfect prospect in this NFL draft. Texans will do nicely with Tyree Wilson. Number 13, the New York Jets will bring in Broderick Jones. Drafting Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia here. Great lineman, did wonders. Helped protect Stetson Bennett, helped with that running game, helped be a very solid piece and foundation of that offensive line. And with Aaron Rodgers coming over soon, you're going to want to get protection for him. The Jets are really rallying up for a Super Bowl within the next year or two, so they're pushing all their chips in. They just got to steal with Sauce Gardner this year. They feel very confident taking Broderick Jones at this point in the draft. At number 14, we'll have Kalijah Cansey, who had an amazing NFL combine, whose draft stock is slowly rising for sure. I feel like maybe I took Kalijah Cansey a little early here, but I feel as if the Patriots would be the right team to take a type of player early. If I had to pick a guy that would have went over them, maybe a Brian Breesy, maybe a Christian Gonzalez. I feel like maybe I should have went corner for the Patriots as well. But nonetheless, Kalijah Cansey at 14, going to be a solid defensive lineman. I think he'll get coached well by Belichick, who's a defensive coach. The Patriots defense always, historically is going to perform well, and Kalijah Cansey will be able to be extremely molded here. At number 15, we're going to have Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC. Caleb Williams loves throwing to Jordan Addison. Of course, he's going to be a very fun prospect next year to break down, quarterback out of USC, the Heisman winner as well. Jordan Addison had a bad combine, though. He had a really rough combine, at least after he ran, I think, his first set of drills or his first 40, his raw athletic score or relative athletic score, I think, was in the 4s. So not very good. A lot of people are saying he was a day 2 pick, but the Packers have scored recently with a Christian Watson. They know that Jordan Love is going to be taking over the helm, so they want to be able to get him a nice receiver in there, and I think Jordan Addison out of USC will be nice for him. Now, here is probably the biggest shocker of my mock draft, and we said it. There was no trades in this draft. I'm probably going to do trades in the next draft. Might end up doing 3 or 4 of these things because I love how PFF makes it simple. I'll even show you the draft capital that you can use. I'm not going to pay extra for the the PFF Plus, but we can still simulate and it'll be in here for you guys. They're not going to sit with Sam Howell at number 16 Washington for the Commanders. They know Sam Howell's not it. Taylor Heineke just left, who was probably the better of the 2 quarterbacks. So they're going to take Hendon Hooker, who did tear his ACL. They're going to take Hendon Hooker, quarterback out of Tennessee, who looked great through a lot of the season, really did. There are some complaints about his pocket presence. There are some complaints about him going through his progressions, but Washington at number 16, they're going to see something in Hendon Hooker. There's been people talking about how he could be franchise. I believe he's got those capabilities to be franchise. Great arm, good on the ground. Again, I think he can see the field better. I'd like to see better pocket presence. That's 2 very big qualities for a quarterback. But Washington knows Sam Howell's not it. And let's not forget that Eric Bieniemy also is now the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. And it will just be a matter of time before Eric Bieniemy succeeds that offensive coordinator position and will be the head coach of the Washington Commanders after Ron Rivera heads out. And Hendon Hooker will be sitting happily there for him to, Hendon Hooker will be sitting there happily for him, and he'll have an awesome weapon to be able to work with. Don't want to get the burnout on the NFL draft here. We are going to hit those last 16 picks, but I just want to hit another quick break. Hope you guys are enjoying the draft, NFL mock draft so far. Get in the chat. Let me know what the best pick is so far. What's the worst pick? What's something you would have done different? Where do you see a trade happening? Bruns, I'm going to pull your comment up on the screen here. I won't be mad about JSN, but a young edge rusher would complete our D-line rebuild. I do think JSN would be BPA. I'm not sure what you mean BPA. Would be BPA at that pick. Now, here's the thing for JSN at number 8 to Atlanta. So talking about a young edge rusher, y'all brought in Caden Ellis, who I know is a linebacker, but he can be used in an edge rusher situation to rush the passer. Onyemata is going to have depth. Those aren't 2 major guys you're going to depend on rushing the passer. You just brought in Calais Campbell, and I'm going to get into the Falcons defense a little later. You just brought in Calais Campbell. Like I said, Grady Jarrett is still there. So I think with where Atlanta falls in this draft, that JSN feels like the best pick compared to what they're looking at. I'm going to have Atlanta taking a quarterback in one of these mocks. I'll have them trading. These mock drafts are going to get crazy. But yeah, if they did go edge rusher, I mean, BPA, yeah, best player available. Yeah, and see, that's what the Falcons did it for when they took Kyle Pitts, which I was not a fan of at all. Yeah, if Atlanta for some reason like had Nolan Smith fall to them, I think that would be a good pickup. Obviously young guy, hell of an athlete. I don't see Will Anderson falling to Atlanta at 8, but that would be another crazy pickup. So yeah, if y'all could get a stud at defensive lineman, a young guy to come in, because I really think y'all's defense was really bad last year. First of all, I was looking at the numbers. Y'all were like bottom 10 in everything: turnovers, turnover margin, pass yards, rush yards, total yards, points, you name it. Y'all, Atlanta just wasn't good at it. And that's not to talk shit about Atlanta, but again, bringing in Jesse Bates, bringing in Mike Hughes, bringing in Caden Ellis, bringing in Calais Campbell, y'all got some pieces. Y'all definitely got some pieces. Y'all are making moves in free agency, and I think Atlanta could be a top 15 defense next year, and that is good enough in the NFL to get you far. Of course, Atlanta has a lot of work to do with the quarterback perspective and getting the offense back right. But yeah. All right. I think we'll go ahead and get back into these picks. Nice little break there. I just didn't want to be grinding through all these picks. All right. At number 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers will take Anton Harrison, tackle out of Oklahoma. They want to be able to protect Kenny Pickett, who didn't look bad last year. I know I didn't have the Steelers in my top 10 players, or excuse me, in my top 10 teams once I ranked the AFC and Aaron Rodgers went there. Little interesting for sure, I know, but they're going to want to protect Kenny Pickett. They were very promising last year. Mike Tomlin is clearly a legend, never had a losing season. So I think I could put the Steelers into that top 10 AFC rankings and take an Anton Harrison here for that protection of Kenny Pickett to help out Najee Harris, to open up the offensive game. That would be a nice pick for them. And number 18, after Nolan Smith is drafted, maybe I goofed here a little as well. At number 18, I have the Lions taking Brian Breesy out of Clemson. Might be a little high of a pick for him, and they just took Nolan Smith at number 6. I don't know. Maybe they could have went running back. Maybe because they just lost Jamal Williams to the Saints. I'm very happy about that pickup. I don't know. Definitely feel like I goofed there at number 18. And number 19, another nice defensive pickup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The best safety in the draft, in my opinion, Brian Branch out of Alabama. We saw his ball hawking skills. We saw the way that he was able to be agile in the secondary. His intelligence, his vision of the field is very solid. Again, there's never a perfect prospect, but Brian Branch going next to Antoine Winfield, going next to a Carlton Davis, being behind a Levante David, and I want to say a Devin White still. It's just going to add to that defense in Tampa. Number 20, the Seattle Seahawks, going to go in those trenches again. They had Charles Cross last year. I believe the offensive line could have been better for the Seahawks. I want to make sure that I've got these numbers right real quick. Dang, I just had it. Let's see. Taken. Where were they at? And we were Seahawks. Oh, well, can't find it. I was trying to see if my numbers are right on before I said that the Seahawks O-line could have been better, but DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State, guy that was next to Paris Johnson Jr. as well. You can never go wrong with a guy out of the Big Ten. Guy out of the Big Ten with an offensive lineman. Same with Northwestern as well, Peter Skoronski. So they will just follow in those footsteps after taking Jalen Carter, who might be the best player in the draft. They're going to turn around and take another trench player in DeJuan Jones to help protect Geno Smith, to open those lanes for Kenneth Walker, and to let Seattle continue to move on up as they had a great season last year compared to what they were expected to do. Comeback player of the year in Geno Smith. Number 21, the Chargers, I think, have no other major first-round need than wide receiver. Keenan Allen is very good. Keenan Allen is elite when he's healthy, but that is the punchline, is when he's healthy. One of the best route runners in the league. Mike Williams is one of the best big catch guys in the league, one of the best hands in the league. He'll put his body on the line literally to make a catch. And some people might say Bijan Robinson here, which would be crazy to me. Some people think Bijan's going to be a top 20 pick. Obviously, you can see he fell in my draft, but Zay Flowers will be the wide receiver of choice here at number 21 for the Los Angeles Chargers. They just have to get some young men in the wide receiver room and just get some health more than anything. Right after that will be another wide receiver. Number 22 to the Baltimore Ravens will be Josh Downs, wide receiver out of North Carolina. Very solid guy as well. They need a receiver over there. The Ravens have a really interesting draft, though, because I don't think Lamar is going to be a Raven. He has requested a trade, and now knowing that Tyler Huntley could be there to step in, but nonetheless, they need a receiver, like bad. Mark Andrews is there, but is the rookie really going to be able to find him as efficiently as Lamar Jackson was able to, and really use him as that safety blanket? Understand how we can get creative with his tight end? Not necessarily sure, so they bring Josh Downs in. Christian Gonzalez is probably the biggest faller of my first mock draft, all the way at number 23, and I don't think there's a better position for him than the Minnesota Vikings at this point in my mock draft. Andrew Booth is okay in the secondary. They did just lose Patrick Peterson as well. He's now going to be a Steeler. So I think Christian Gonzalez, who I want to say ran, it might have been the fastest 40 at the combine as a corner. Very slim guy, great, great ball skills, controls his body well in the air, good coverage guy. Overall, again, I think the best corner in the draft is Christian Gonzalez, and the Vikings are going to benefit off him very well. Second best corner in the draft, I would say, some might not. Devin Witherspoon at number 24 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're going to have Trayvon Walker. You're going to have Josh Allen, the defensive lineman with the Jaguars. There is, I think, Foye Oluokun as well. They have quite a few players that are looking pretty good with Jacksonville. The offensive side of the ball is great. So bringing in Devin Witherspoon, mentored by some of the veterans that are already over there, also been able to mend with a young team that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Devin Witherspoon will be a good pick here. At number 25, those Giants are going to want to protect Daniel Jones, who just got the bag, who has the coach of the year next to him, who has Saquon Barkley behind him, but also has the slowest wide receiver room in the NFL. But in comes Darren Waller from the Raiders. Great pickup. I think Darren Waller I hope Darren Waller is able to stay healthy this year. Daniel Jones will probably have a good chunk of his yards to Darren Waller, no question about it. It wouldn't surprise me if Darren Waller was the leading receiver for Daniel Jones. So saying all that, they take O'Cyrus Torrence out of Florida, which some people think he's a day 2 pick, but with the way that these offensive line fell in the draft, O'Cyrus Torrence maybe could have went at number 13 where Broderick Jones went to the Jets, Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson. No, I'm actually going to say that he is behind them realistically. He could have possibly went at 17 or 20 as well, but he's going to fall all the way here to number 25. The Giants love those Florida players, as they did take Kadarius Toney, who is a Kansas City Chief now, but they want that protection for Daniel Jones. So they're going to bring in O'Cyrus Torrence off the offensive line. I'd love to get Brian Bresee for the Saints. That would be nice. That would be really nice to get Brian Bresee for the Saints. No question about that. I would just want it to be better than, how it was when we drafted Peyton Turner. That's a guy that, hasn't really done anything. And sorry, I felt like the mic was like super in front of my face. That's a guy who hasn't really done anything. So getting a younger guy and Brian Bresee would be nice. It definitely would be nice for sure. See, I get so OCD about the mic. Taylor always tells me not to touch it. She's going to roast me when I go downstairs. Like, why are you touching your microphone? I know. And number 26, the Dallas Cowboys. I really wanted to go Bijan Robinson here, but the NFL is going to be very, very wary, and it's unfortunate, but makes sense also in an unfortunate way that running backs are not going to be as valued in the first round. Saquon Barkley, I think, was a 3rd overall pick. Ezekiel Elliott was a very high pick as well. He single-handedly made it to where running backs will probably never make 15 or 20 million a year again because of how bad that contract was. And, you just find a good late running back guy like Isaiah Pacheco, 7th round. Tyler Algier went to the Falcons. I think he was a day 2 pick, round 2 pick. Alvin Kamara was not a first-round pick. So you just find people that are able to be picked up in the NFL draft, and boom. Or not, later in the NFL draft or even in free agency, and boom, that's a person that they'll bring in and really make it work. But it's not going to be Bijan Robinson here. You see where he goes later in the draft. They're going to take B.J. Ojulari, edge out of LSU. They're going to put him next to a Micah Parsons, supplement for a DeMarcus Lawrence that feels like he's been disappearing here and there over the last few seasons. So B.J. Ojulari at number 26, Joey Porter Jr. at number 27. Again, I really, really wanted to have see, this is why I can't wait to do another draft. You always got to do the first one. You got to realize, like, damn, that probably shouldn't have went there. Because if I had to go now, I felt kind of guilty putting Jalen Hyatt at number 31. I'm like, damn, is he going to be a first rounder? I feel like the way the NFL falls, he could be a day 2 pick, which then he'll be a steal for anybody. I think he's first round talent, though. I'd love to say that the Bills take Jalen Hyatt at number 27, but I did take a corner here, Joey Porter Jr., out of Penn State. Very solid corner in this draft, and they just need guys in Buffalo to help with that passing defense, to put some help back there, to get some nice corners back there. But if I definitely had to say my biggest mistake of this draft would definitely be the Bills not taking that wide receiver in Jalen Hyatt. And number 28, the Bengals will be bringing in Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher out of Iowa, to help with that line as well. And they have a solid defensive line. They really do. Trey Hendrickson, they've got some of the people on the linebacking core. They have the secondary. So overall, a defense that is doable in the NFL. But being here at number 28, their best player available will possibly be Lucas Van Ness. At number 29, the New Orleans Saints will take Miles Murphy, edge out of Clemson, who is solid. Brian Breesy would be nice as well. Maybe we'll have a Lucas Van Ness fall to us. Maybe we'll have a BJ Ojolari fall to us. You never know. But we definitely do need interior defensive line and just defensive line in general very badly. We lost Caden Ellis. We lost David Onyemata. Cam Jordan is getting older. So it's very rough. It's very rough for the New Orleans Saints picking here at 29. I'm glad they got a first-round pick back. Don't get me wrong about that at all. But, yes, they will be taking Miles Murphy here at number 29. At number 30, Bijan Robinson, the first running back off the board. The Eagles really want to make a power move. They lost a good bit of pieces. They're feeling a little rough about it, but they've supplemented as well as they could. And I think they're supplementing well. But Miles Sanders did just get out of town. Bijan Robinson is by far the best running back in this NFL draft. The burst, speed, the agility, everything. Bijan Robinson is one of the cleanest prospects in the NFL this year, or in the NFL draft. Big move here for the Super Bowl runner-ups. Bijan Robinson is going to be great as that two-way player. Really, really like Bijan Robinson going here. This is a splash move for Philadelphia. Philadelphia comes in and takes him off the board. They want to stay in that Super Bowl conversation. They want to keep that offense going. They know the quarterback's coach is now stepping in as that offensive coordinator, and they want to keep that firepower in the offense. Bijan Robinson at number 30. Number 31, it is probably going to feel really unfair to a lot of people in the NFL. Jalen Hyatt, the rookie, will be with the Kansas City Chiefs alongside of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes underneath the wing of Andy Reid. Absolutely amazing. Jalen Hyatt could have an insane rookie year, potential offensive rookie of the year if he goes off with the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's going to be the first mock draft for the NFL with AJL. Crazy one there for sure. Saints with an iffy pick. Bills with an iffy pick. Cowboys could go either way. Christian Gonzalez was a faller. The Steelers taking an O lineman at 17. JSN going at 8. Anthony Richardson at 7. I like this NFL draft, though. I like this NFL mock draft. It's not as good as the NFL draft we saw a few years back with all of the quarterbacks and wide receivers, and that was just a loaded NFL draft. But I love getting into the players that are coming in. Make sure to check it out. I went through all the picks there. If you can see it on the live stream, the entire first mock draft for the NFL with AJL is there. Y'all get in the comments. Let me know what you think about that first round mock draft. What are some trades you would possibly make? What are some picks you loved? Some picks you hated? Did I get any of this right? Y'all definitely let me know for sure. Going to hit another quick sponsor break here now that we finished out those picks. We're going to get into the Atlanta Falcons defensive outlook for 2023 as they bring in another player in Calais Campbell. Very, very excited to watch this Falcons defense transform. And that's probably weird hearing me say as a Saints fan, but hey, you got teams that don't get their love a lot. You got them turning something around in terms of a defense, and I'm happy for them. I'll be there for them. Talked about pre-recording these sponsor breaks. I know it would really help. Just let me chill for a second. Give myself some Give myself a break. God, I feel like this chair makes me slouch. I hate to be touching the mic so much, but it's gotta be there. It's gotta be good. All right. Y'all, please make sure to like the stream wherever you're at. This is episode 15 of the NFL with AJL. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me live on the show. Please subscribe on YouTube. We are on the road to 1,000 subs, 319 currently. So I appreciate everyone that's tapped in, everyone that is tuned in to the YouTube channel, especially. Make sure you hit the bell for YouTube so you'll never miss a post. The QR code in the corner of the screen, as always, is every bit of our podcast content and all of our podcast clips as well. If you can't find me, you're simply not looking hard enough. We are sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs, whether you need to buy a home, sell a home, invest in real estate, get that asset, fund the retirement to set yourself free from the working life. Never forget, you can hit them up on social media at Buy and Sell with AJL. Get on their newsletter. Drop your email down there as well. Get on their AI that just got implemented into the business. You drop your email, drop a property address, and you'll be able to know the price, the competition, how fast you could sell it for in whatever market that you desire. And forget that you can, or excuse me, don't forget that you can call the show 678-480-8716. Again, that is 678-480-8716. And let's go ahead and tackle this Falcons 2023 defensive outlook. And I got to give credit to the Falcons. Y'all really love this video on YouTube. The Falcons fan base is deep. The NFL fan base is deep in general. It'd be crazier if we had more than 32 teams. But the Falcons added Calais Campbell on Friday, just before we rolled over onto the 1st of April. And now, just this season, the Falcons have added Jesse Bates from the Bengals, Caden Ellis, Mike Hughes, Calais Campbell, David Onyemata. Those are just the pickups to go alongside an A.J. Terrell, a Lorenzo Carter, a Grady Jarrett. Imagine if they still had Foye Oluokun. And let's take a look at the Falcons defense from last year with these additions. This is going to help clean up everything, literally. Last year, they were 6th worst in yards given up, 8th worst in passing yards given up, 10th worst in rushing yards given up, 10th worst in points given up, 9th worst in turnover margin, 6th worst in total takeaways, and 2nd worst in the league in defensive sacks. So really, to agree with you there, Bruns, talk about a big rebuild for the Falcons and what they were able to do with that defensive line. And, again, that's a reason I didn't have them taking one in the draft, because Calais Campbell and Caden Ellis are going to help with that aspect. But you do want to get a young guy, a guy that can maybe turn into a star player. Again, it would be crazy if y'all were able to grab Nolan Smith, Georgia guy, been able to stay right in Georgia in that Falcons uniform. Going to be an absolute monster. So the Falcons defense was rough last year all the way around. And with them adding all these pieces, making some big moves in free agency, I'm very proud of the Falcons, because we've seen them. The Super Bowl year, defense was okay, offense was great. And the Falcons offense has had a tendency year over year, until, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones left town, unfortunately. That was an offense that could hang with some of the biggest in the league. But the defense was also consistently giving up 27, 31, 28, 24 points. And that's hard. That's really hard to win a football game giving up that many points, let alone just giving up maybe 20 or 21 points in an NFL game. So knowing that the Falcons will have one of their better defenses in years, they're going to have an elite safety. They're going to have an elite corner, talking about Jesse Bates, talking about A.J. Terrell. They have a great, probably B+, A- player that they just picked up in Caden Ellis. Mike Hughes was a former first-round pick as a corner. Calais Campbell, yes, is 36 years old, but he's going to bring that veteran presence. At one point, he was one of the best edge rushers, or one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. If David Onyemata can stay healthy, he's got a lot of depth coming over from New Orleans. Grady Jarrett is hit or miss, but he'll give you maybe 5 or 6 sacks a year, which is serviceable. A.J. Terrell, major leaps over just the first few years in the NFL. He's an elite corner already. And then Lorenzo Carter, I believe, coming over from the Giants. Solid pickup as well. Again, not a guy that's going to do major things for you, but he can be serviceable at times. Now, what are some strengths that the Falcons could have coming up this year? I think the pass rush, again, is going to really, really improve. The Falcons were 2nd worst in the league in defensive sacks last year. I remember at one point in one of their recent seasons, they had more sacks against the Saints in one game than they had all year. So we know that the defensive line has been a struggle for Atlanta before. And, the more I talk about this, probably the next draft, I will have Atlanta taking a defensive lineman, maybe making a trade to go up and get a Jalen Carter or a Nolan Smith. But I think the pass rush, again, will improve. Caden Ellis had, I think, 7 or 8 sacks last year and just 11 starts as the linebacker, as mainly playing at the linebacker position for the Saints. Gets this contract with the Falcons because of how he played with the Saints, and I think he's going to be great in situational pass rushing. He can also drop back in coverage as well. Calais Campbell, like I just mentioned, David Onyemata, like I just mentioned. If these guys can stay healthy and give you some good depth, really mentioning the Calais Campbell and David Onyemata pickups, it's going to be solid. It's going to be very solid. Grady Jarrett and, Lorenzo Carter, those are like B to C players roughly, and they can produce. So I think the Falcons really could be top 15 in defensive sacks, and really just a top 15 defense overall. You're going to have an elite player again in Jesse Bates and A.J. Terrell, 2 elite players in your secondary. That's going to be one of the nicer secondaries, one of the nicer safety cornerback combos or duos in the NFL. Caden Ellis, again, can drop back in coverage. Mike Hughes is a solid signing, former first-round corner. And so, again, I think they'll be top 15 in defensive passing yards, top 15 in defensive sacks, and I think that's just going to naturally bring everything up. If you can rush the quarterback, which will definitely affect the rushing game, and if you can do well on the back end in the secondary, that's going to help you out overall in the NFL. No question. No question about that. And again, I'm proud of the Falcons spending that free agency money, giving Jesse Bates one of the biggest contracts for a safety and paying him as one of the biggest safeties and one of the most well-paid safeties in the NFL this year. The Falcons were second in cap space. They had something to do. They had something to, take care of with that defense. They believe in Desmond Ridder. Excuse me. They've got Drake London. They're going to be bringing in Jackson Smith and Jigba. So just knowing how this team is going to be looking to make some turnarounds this year, bringing in those players, I think is really going to help them on the defensive aspect. And I'm positive for the Falcons this coming year. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on the defense. We're going to hit the outro music, let it play for a second so it doesn't break up on that outro. And we're going to go ahead and get out of here on the NFL with AJL episode 15. That's going to wrap up today's episode of the NFL with AJL, episode 15. We had the entire first round mock draft 1.0, the AJL mock draft 1.0. We talked about the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark situation. Not as crazy as everybody thought it was, not as inflated as it should have been. It's what the sport needs. I love the competition. They're killing it out there. They are. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese are going to be great for the WNBA. And we talked about, out of all things, the Atlanta Falcons 2023 defensive outlook. Really enjoyed the show tonight. Please make sure you like the stream before you get out of here. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell so you'll never miss a post. Hit that QR code on the top of the screen if you can. Scan it. It's every bit of podcast content we've got on social media. Please leave us a review on all podcast platforms. It really helps us get out there. Bruns, I appreciate you for tuning into the show tonight. I know you listen to the pod all the time. Anyone else that listens to the podcast, whether it's on YouTube, whether you find it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I appreciate y'all. At the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms, at Buy and Sell with AJL on all social media platforms for all your professional worldwide real estate needs. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. It feels great to be back. Episode 15. We were here on a Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. Episode 16 is coming Friday. Not sure if I want to do another mock draft yet because I feel like I could go crazy with these. But we might put the first one and the second ones up on the screen just so you some changes. I'm not sure, though. Shout out to PFF for having that mock draft simulator. Appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. Amazing show.